Men were never supposed to be happy. You were supposed to be somebody. So men have been given a pseudo goal. Unfortunately, in the 18th century, there was a political agenda that was procured and marketed out to the world. And this is the idea of the pursuit of happiness, that you as a man, it is important in this modern age to pursue what makes you feel good. This is a terrible pseudo goal. No civilization in the history of the human race was predicated on the assumption that one should single-mindedly pursue a North Star that is predicated on sensation, on how it feels. I must feel pleasure, I must feel good, I must feel happy. And if I am going to interpret those sensations through my senses, then it is clear to me that I have achieved the holistic goal of this particular existence. But as I have prefaced, this is pseudo-happiness masquerading as meaning. It is a false front. It is a facade. It is a fugazi. It's a surface level. It has no depth. It has no meaning. This is the real villain in your life. Any narrative, any individual, any society, any ideology, any dogma that has convinced you that as a man it is necessary for you to pursue that which makes an individual feel happy does not have your best interests at heart. I know, it's amazing. The world does not have a man's best interest at heart, especially since the 18th century, ever since the arisal of this perverted narrative. And this was born out of one of the most horrendous mistranslations that we'll get to in a moment. But I'm going to diagnose this. I'm going to diagnose this with a very sharp and fine and deeply penetrating, no homo here, tool. The last man. Now this was described in Friedrich Nietzsche's, I believe it was Thus Spoke Zarathustra, in which the culmination of this particular text was defined as the ceiling of modern civilization, in which a man pursued optimized warmth, small comforts, no risk, no creation, and no becoming. This is the ultimate and sad predictor of the North Star most men are following these days. Warmth, small comfort in the forms of video games and Netflix, no risk, no creation, no becoming. No risk. It's an interesting phrase there, the dichotomy between risk and comfort. Happy-seeking men aren't weak men by any stretch of the imagination. They are not weak by happenstance, but they are produced by a system who mistakes comfort with contentment. And I'm personally very happy at that particular summary or conclusion or evaluation of the diagnosis of most Western man. Now here is the biggest translation. So I'm going to describe to you the real eudaimonia, which is a Greek word that was popularized by Aristotle. So this word eudaimonia was mistranslated into meaning happiness. That man must strive for eudaimonia. Man must strive to become happy, to become content. Eudaimonia really means flourishing through the full exercise of your capabilities. That is what Aristotle meant by eudaimonia. This is the real North Star that every single man watching this video needs to tweak, needs to evaluate, needs to look at his current philosophy and moral perspective on the world and re-articulate it, redefine it, reimagine it to be more congruent and consistent with Aristotle's eudaimonia. Equally, we can talk about Viktor Frankl, a man who experienced some of the most horrific things a human being can can ever experience on this earth, as he watched his fellow friends. Well, if you've read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, I don't need to be too descriptive, but this is an individual who was in the Holocaust camps, and this is what he derived, and I implore you to read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, because it is a perspective-destroying, paradigm-shifting read. One of those reads that you won't be the same after you kind of read it. One of the sentiments that I got from this particular text was happiness cannot be pursued directly. You cannot single-handedly blind yourself from all of the tools and systems that will guarantee your happiness by clumsily pursuing happiness single-pointedly. But happiness arrives as a consequence of living correctly. But I wanted to add a different perspective and reference Ernest Becker here, who described in his text that man's happiness was a consequence of pursuing heroic significance. And this is this idea of myth, that it is man's job in the world to go into the dragon's lair and slay the dragon before it comes out of its lair of its own volition and destroys your village. There is a intention, there is a vigor that pulls a man through the combination of his endocrine profile, of his testosterone, of his increased resilience to the world. In many ways, I like to say that the dichotomy in characteristics between man and woman is significant. There is rationality, there is meaning behind the difference in the characteristics of these sexes. One is more gentle, one is more fragile and more beautiful and chaotic, and that is the feminine, and the other is more grounded, is more orderly, is more stoic, has more vigor, has more drive, has more direction, has more penetration in his proclivity to approach the world. He approaches it with a kind of tender aggressiveness, and that's not a mistake. The function of the masculine is parallel to its utility or its consequence on the world. He is supposed to use these things. He is supposed to go out in the world and become of heroic significance. So this is the final landing point and the crux to this particular philosophical lecture, gentlemen, and will hopefully allow you to articulate your North Star and, as a consequence, experience happiness, because that is only how you get it. It is a side effect. It is not the goal. You are not entitled to the fruit of your work. I'm going to say that again. You are not entitled to the reward. Man is never entitled to the reward. And I'm referencing Krishna here. And this second part is quietly paraphrased. I've added some of my own in here in case there are some Vedantic scholars among you. You are not entitled to the fruits of your work. The work is your fruit. Or I believe the direct translation in the Bhagavad Gita is you are only entitled to the work, as opposed to making it synonymous with fruit. But the point, God, because Krishna is a manifestation of God, is the work is the reward. Your art is the reward. Your rationality for existence is the reward, because there is no tomorrow. I'm sounding like Apollo Creed here, God rest his soul. There is no tomorrow. Can you imagine the delusion? Can you imagine the frustration of God and the universe, or whatever you call it or him, that he has given you today? He has given you today, but you are obsessed and you will not relent on the prospects of tomorrow. I'll say that one more time. God has given you the day. He's given you the day with all its opportunity and all you can do with it. But you are obsessed and you will not relent, and you will not put down the idea that tomorrow is going to be better. What a slap in the face. What a slap in the face. There is no tomorrow. Happiness is too small a container to satiate man. I don't think it is true, I know it is true, because I have pursued happiness when I was a younger man for as long as I can remember. I drowned myself in all the debauchery and degenerate habits and actions that are associated with squeezing and reaping as much pleasure out of this world as possible. I wanted to give you an example of how a man might go about rationalizing his purpose in the world, and it comes through solving his own problem. I'll give you a personal example. I'm a very big fan of this YouTube channel at the moment called a Low Back Ability, and it's run by this younger gentleman called Brendan, who experienced a disc herniation like I have, and he was in a very, very dark place. And instead of going and pursuing what might make him feel good and put him in less pain, because I know the exercises, by the way, that will put me in less pain, that will give me relief, but they won't fix the problem. They won't give me my meaning back. They'll give me a comforting, warm blanket that I can cozy up with at night and I can feel good about myself. But they won't give me a journey. They won't give me work to do. And Brendan, instead of taking the easy path, he went out and he researched biomechanics and physiology and anatomy and everything that he needed in order to fix his own problem, and he fixed it. And then he went about and he shared it with the world. And then you know what happened? Other people validated his existence. They said, "Thank God for Brendan, for without his presence and existence in the world, I would still be walking in pain and miserable for the rest of my life." And this is the place that you want to get to, that as a consequence gives you happiness. And it is something that I have experienced, but not because I pursued happiness directly, but because I pursued what I coined the inner protagonist. That inner self as you, that you mull over every single night, wishing would come forth and plant both of his feet on the world and say, "I am here. I am here." I said this at the start, you're not supposed to be happy. You're not supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be someone. You're supposed to be of heroic significance. You're supposed to pick up something heavy and carry it in the world. You're supposed to rationalize your own meaning. There is supposed to be a reason why you're here, and you're supposed to share that. And that's not a theory, that's a fact. Speak soon.